Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The K-9 Advantage in Strengthening Security. I'm Millie Mastramati, and I'm your moderator today. There was a time when hospitals were considered safe havens. In today's world, healthcare organizations are faced with much more violence, running the gamut from verbal assault to active shooters. Multiple reasons contribute to this rise, including our national mental health crisis, overcrowded emergency departments, and increased drug and alcohol abuse, just to name a few. Hospitals are faced with a very difficult challenge of balancing the need for access and availability to the public with providing security for patients and staff. Effective, multifaceted security programs are key in reaching that goal. Our speakers today are going to share how their K-9 program strengthened Pomona Valley Hospital Medical Center's security for their patients and staff. Pomona Valley Hospital Medical Center is a CHI owner, just as you are. Two members of the Pomona's K-9 team will be presenting today, Beto Fuentes and Jose Martinez. Beto Fuentes is the corporal of the K-9 security and lead K-9 coordinator. As a graduate in criminal justice, he has been with Pomona since 1998 and working in the K-9 unit since 2000. Beto works with a dual-purpose K-9 named Turbo, but I'm going to let him tell you more about that. Our first speaker is K-9 Officer Jose Martinez. Jose has been in security law enforcement for over 20 years after graduating from the Riverside County Sheriff's Academy. He joined Pomona in 2004, was chosen for the K-9 team in 2005, and has been with them since. Jose handles a dual-purpose K-9 named Connor. Jose and Beto, thank you so much for being with us today. I'll pass the floor to you now.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jose Martinez. I'm a K-9 officer with the Pomona Valley Hospital Security Department. I'd like to welcome you to this informational webinar on our hospital K-9. A little background about myself. I've been with the department for 14 years. I've been a handler for 12. During this time, I've worked two dogs. My first dog was Bear, and I currently have a new dog, which is Connor. Pomona Valley Medical Center. We're located in Pomona, California, in the San Gabriel Valley. We have 4 centers of excellence, Robert and Beverly Cancer Center, the Stead Heart Vascular Center, the Women's Center, and the Regional Kidney Stone Center. We care for over 100,000 emergency patients and deliver over 7,000 babies annually. We recently got selected and designated as the new Level 2 Trauma Center in Los Angeles County, in which our K-9 program will play a crucial role due to the increase of activity. A little bit about PVHMC K-9 history. Pomona Valley established the K-9 program in the late 1980s. CEO Richard Yoakum has supported the K-9 unit and ability to cross-train in explosive detection since 2004. We're one of the first hospital facilities to have a dual-purpose K-9 working in a security department. The hospital's safety and security is our primary goal. As of 2017, we have 4 K-9 teams which are helping us to achieve this mission. On this slide here, you'll see the first K-9 team back in the late 1980s. To the left, I have Officer Rick Martin with K-9 Fork. After his dog's retirement, he was promoted to sergeant, and he's currently our night shift supervisor. Second in line is Sergeant Steve Sutton with his K-9 Mikey. After his retirement, he also was promoted to sergeant and is our swing shift supervisor. Third, you have Officer Cabrera. And last, you have Officer Cliff D. Hayward. Actually, Officer D. Hayward did 20 years in the K-9 unit, and he's currently the late shift lead officer. The next slide is actually a picture of our current officers from left to right. On the left, that's myself, Jose Martinez, with my K-9 Connor. Second is Beto Fuentes and his K-9 Turbo. Third, you'll have Gilbert Soria with Falco. And our newest K-9 officer will be Christian Valdez with his K-9 Enox. K-9 team abilities. The hospital's K-9 unit primary purpose in the hospital is to be used as a deterrent and locating tool, whether it's to locate a person or an explosive device. The K-9 secondary purpose would be a use of force. Most people might ask what are some of the advantages of having a K-9 program in the hospital. Today we will discuss the impact that our K-9 program has had and how it's benefited our facility. K-9, going back to the K-9 abilities, explosive detection. Our dogs are dual-purpose K-9s. They're also cross-trained to detect explosives. We train in patrol, tracking, obedience. Our dogs must be obedient at all times due to the fact that, we walk around so many people. Bark and hold, criminal apprehension, handler protection, and swimming. The K-9 team's role in the hospital. Crowd control. I actually have a actual scenario here that I would like to discuss, and this is the actual scenario that occurred here at the hospital and where the K-9 was effective. The first scenario is going to be a gang member who was a victim of a shooting was brought in by private auto. As he was being taken out of the vehicle by his family members, a large group, about 20 other gang members, arrived, dragged him out of the vehicle, and began attacking him and kicking him while on the ground. As I arrived on scene with my K-9 partner, I gave my K-9 partner the bark command. I ordered them to stop, and as my dog continued to bark at them, the crowd immediately dispersed and left the scene without further incident. We remediate aggressive behavior involving patients and visitors. This is another scenario in which this proved to be effective. One night while I was walking through the emergency department, a man who came in under the influence of PCP came into the emergency room waiting room. He demanded to go in and be seen, and then pulled the doors off the hinge in an attempt to come in. As he opened the door, I just happened to be standing there with my partner, my K-9. My K-9 reacted to his aggressive behavior and started barking at the male. The male immediately laid on the ground and complied. We prevent gang fights from occurring in the emergency department. We also, pet therapy. Basically, our dogs are social enough to where we're able to interact with patients and staff. So we kind of accustomed them to be able to socialize with the public due to the fact that we're around so many people. Explosive detection and prevention. Post 9/11, the hospital's administration thought it would be a good idea to cross-train our K-9s in explosive detection. Due to the potential increase in terrorist acts, we decided to cross-train our dogs in explosive detection. Since then, our bomb dogs have been used as a prevention and deterrent tool. The K-9 is the only law enforcement tool that can be called after being deployed. Unlike a firearm, after the trigger is pulled, you cannot recall a bullet. The K-9 is also a tool that if it's ever taken away from us, it cannot be used against us or the public. The presence of the K-9 dramatically reduces the use of force. It reduces officer-suspect confrontations. Even the most resistive suspects have been made compliant by the mere presence of the K-9. It has been my personal experience that 95% of the time, suspects are fearful of K-9s, and their presence usually results in surrender or compliance. From a workers' compensation perspective, costs are reduced. Common sense would dictate that when suspects are made compliant by K-9 presence, that compliance reduces workers' compensation expenses for officers' injuries incurred while fighting a suspect. A study was done by the state of Michigan on how departments can save manpower hours by utilizing a K-9. The study showed that K-9 save search time. K-9s are so effective that they typically equated to 10 human officers, saving search time and freeing up officers for other calls, whether it meant searching for an explosive or a threat of a person. Going on to our K-9 certifications. Our K-9 teams must complete annual certification in explosives and patrol work. Explosive certification is obtained through Horse International. Our patrol certification is obtained through the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. Monthly training consists of 16 hours for each patrol and detection required by post at Horse International. Due to the fact that we're a certified unit, K-9 unit, we actually have to maintain the same level of training that local and state and federal agencies follow. Therefore, we have to certify once a year, train weekly, and maintain the same level of standards. At this time, this concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd like to introduce Beto Fuentes. Beto Fuentes is our senior K-9 handler, and he will be elaborating a little bit more on our dogs and how our dogs work and how we train.
Hello, my name is Beto Fuentes. I've been with Pomona Valley Hospital for the last 19 years. I've been in charge of the K-9 program for the last 17 years. I now got promoted to security specialist, but I would like to talk about more of the K-9 certifications. In order for us to certify, we have to certify every year. If our dog doesn't pass at the end of the year, then we can't come back to work. We have to go back until we pass with our dogs. That's for patrol and explosives. We still have to go through the Sheriff's Academy to pass. We're now training 16 hours a month to make sure we are up to standards. Also, we have to hold a personal relationship with our dogs. It's not just a tool, but it's also our partner. We have to take them home. make sure we get him ready. We have to give him a bath, clean up his cage, make sure the cage is secure. It's not just a cage, it's an enclosed cage. So you have 4 walls and you have a roof. We have to make sure we have just on the training equipment, it has to be a stainless steel bowl, bucket and a bowl to make sure we wash it and it's not contaminated. But now I would like to go into the next slide, and this is going to be an area search with the suspect outside. For training purpose, we start with hiding the suspect about 30 yards with the proper PPE, which is a bite suit and a plastic hands to prevent injuries. When we talk about the PPE, the bite suit, so we use the bite suit so the dogs can bite us. Sometimes the bites go through the suit, so we get injured, we just clean up and we keep going. Then we continue with longer distances to build up the dog's ability to search longer. So our first search could be 15 minutes, then we had to go to 20, 25, 35 minutes. Just a quick scenario, I was searching a school, and we searched that school down in Pomona for about 4 hours. Now the difference between the Belgian Malinois, that's what we carry, and the Shepherd, the Belgians, they keep searching. They just keep going and keep going. They're high stronger dogs. The Shepherd usually gives up at about 30, maybe an hour. So this also enables the dog to use their nose rather than their eyes for the search. When we do an area search, we have to identify where the suspect is at. Once we clear the area and identify the suspect, we make 3 announcements before deploying the dog. The announcement is made, let the personnel in the area know that there is going to be a dog search in the area for the suspect. This gives the suspect a chance to surrender and not to be bit. So we'll make the announcement, this is Pomona Valley Security. We have a K-9 unit outside, come out, or we're going to send the dog. The dog will find you and he will bite you. K-9 located and engaged the suspect. It is the handler's responsibility, and only the handler is to decide on when to deploy the dog. The handler must complete competent enough to decide this use of force and not to allow a supervisor to make the decision on when to release the dog. The supervisor may only tell the handler not to deploy the dog. So the handler has to be in control at all times. No supervisor can tell us, send the dog out. We can only make the decision because at the end it's our responsibility. The handler immediately recognizes that his dog is alert by seeing the dog's behavior change. The dog then targets the suspect and engages. During all of this, the handler needs to be aware of all possible weapons the suspect may have. K-9 apprehending the suspect. When apprehending the suspect, we need to realize that our K-9 is a tool, a very effective tool. The handler will always call for a backup officer when detaining or transporting the suspect. When the dog is biting the suspect, it is the backup officer to be safely detained and handcuff the suspect. Safely removing the dog is the handler, responsibility to avoid any further injury. Building search suspects hiding in the closet. When doing building searches, it is a backup officer to responsibility to make sure not to have bystanders in the building. The handler is responsible to make sure everyone hears the announcement loud and clear. Canines are capable of finding suspect in numerous environments, to include enclosed areas such as houses, warehouses, attic, crawl spaces, vehicles, just to name a few. K-9 located the suspect. In this slide, we present the K-9 located the suspect inside the closet. There are no enclosed areas the suspect can hide. The K-9's factory senses will allow the K-9 to pinpoint the suspect's odor. K-9 pulling the suspect out of the concealment area. Numerous scenarios are done involving a suspect and a concealment. The reason is to supply safely by being able to have visual on the suspect's hands. Officer safety. That's rule number one when it comes down to K-9 officers. We also have to make sure we have officer safety, not just for us, but for our backup and for our friend, which is our dog. It is very important that we have the visual suspect, and by having the dog pull him out of the concealment eliminates the possibility of an officer being injured or even killed. K-9 prints from any part of the body. On the right, you notice the K-9 has bitten the suspect on the arm. Training scenarios are done to have the dog bite different areas of the body. K-9s usually bite the upper portion of the body. The reason for this is the suspect usually has a weapon to defend themselves, and it will more likely to use it on the handlers and the dog. On the left, you see the K-9 biting the leg. The suspect lower bite are good for when the suspect is hiding at high level, or when it only is close to the legs. So the dogs don't usually. It all depends what kind of dog you get. We usually get them from Europe. If sometimes the dogs only bite the upper body. When we go to training, which is every month, once every week, we alternate. I want to show my dog how to bite them in the legs, how to bite them in the arms and the back. It doesn't matter where, but our dogs never fail. And for this one, I wish I can show you guys a video for the K-9 deployment and call-offs. Just to reiterate, the handler's responsibility, and only the handler, to decide on when to deploy these dogs. The handler must be competent enough to decide this use of force and not to allow the supervisor to make the decision on when to release the dog. The supervisor may only tell the handler not to deploy the dog. That's, ladies and gentlemen, that's very important. Whenever you pick up a handler, he has to be competent enough and responsible enough to know when to release the dog, and kind of to know his codes, which is a robbery, a felony. So we only release our dogs on a felony. We don't release them on a misdemeanor. If the guy kind of looks young and we don't think he should get bit by the dog, then we don't send him. We use him as a tool. So when getting a handler, it's nice to have a judgment from different people and make sure he's the right person, that he's going to get dirty with the hair, he likes dogs, things like that. When the handler makes a decision to deploy the K-9, he's also able to call off the dog in case the suspect surrenders or innocent bystanders enters the area. It is crucial that continuous training is done to ensure the dogs will call off. If you don't have enough training and you send your dog, a bystander runs into the area, and more likely he's going to get bit. So training is very important. K-9 looking for explosives on an armored vehicle. K-9s are able to detect the vehicles that have sealed compartments. Here you see the K-9 showing interest in a sealed compartment or an armored vehicle. Now, this vehicle was brought back from Iraq. This is in an Army base, different auto, different places. So we just don't train on an Army base. We go to Marine bases. We go to houses. We go to banks. We try to get different stores We can go into refrigerators, big refrigerators, different scenarios. If you bring a dog into the hospital and it's not a trained dog, you try to get him to walk upstairs and he won't do it. Somehow the dogs don't like the stairs. You get a dog into an elevator and he's just going to drop on his knees because they're not used to it. So with these dogs, we have to get them into junkyards. As you can see, the vehicle right there is from an Army base. He was searching in different boxes. These vehicles have been exposed to different explosives, different kind of terrain. Canine ability to detect mass odors. In this slide, you will see canine searching in a generator containing gasoline, oil, and other substances making the C4 that was hidden in the storage compartment. Even with all of these odors, the canine was still able to alert on C4. An experienced handler is able to recognize the difference between his dog showing interest in an odor or actually committing to an odor. This is very important. There's sometimes that when we're training, we have put an aid in the same spot. So somehow we got a residue in there. So we have to recognize when the dog's showing interest and it's just kind of showing interest for the area. And then now we have to make sure the dog commits to that odor or that area in the vehicle. Before graduating from the detection portion of the academy, the canines must complete a scenario with odors being masked by different substances, including dog food. I'll tell you guys a little scenario. I was in a show, a K-9 show in Sacramento, and I was searching on a big bus from the Army. Somehow, when I asked somebody to hide the orders for me in the vehicle, they put them underneath the car. Somebody was walking by and just left a hamburger right next to the vehicle. When I started searching with my dog, and I noticed the hamburger, I kind of got nervous because that's never happened to me. So my dog just went and smelled the hamburger, came back, and kept going. So it is important. It is important for us not to give the dog just regular food. Treat him for what he is. He's a dog. He's a tool to the security department. We only give him dry food. We might give him a snack once in a while, but it's only dry food and water. You give him a little bit of love for Christmas and Thanksgiving. Canine on patrol during hospital operations. The canine is a hand selected to meet the needs of the hospital environment. In this slide, this is one of our canines on patrol during the hospital operations. Like I said, I wish I can show you guys a video. But in this video, this dog is walking through the hospital, and this is the new ER5. We have combatives coming in. We have nurses talking to doctors, and then we're just able to walk with the dog without any interruptions or anything like that. Our canines are able to walk through the crowd of visitors, including tight quarters within the hospital, without any incident. That's very important. Also, I'm going to go back to selecting a handler. Everybody has a bad day, and I always tell this to everybody else within my team. Everybody has a bad day. Even your dog can have a bad day. So if you're having a bad day with your dog, just leave him at home. He doesn't need to come to work. Obedience training is important for it to allow us to patrol and respond to service calls with the dogs being able to understand the handler's commands. If your dog doesn't want to sit, it's the handler's responsibility to make him sit. If the dog's having a bad day again, just leave him at home. Canine socializing with hospital staff. In our hospital environment, it's important for our dogs to socialize with patients and staff. We often patrol areas where there's a large group of people in congested areas. Just within watching the slide, you see a nurse, and the dog, the only thing he wants, he just wants to get love. That's all. you put him on a command, and then he responds right away. But that just shows that it's just puppies. As you can see in the slide right here, our canines socialize with little kids, brings them a smile on their face, and boosts them morale, especially with children. With this slide right here, this little kid, he missed his dog at home, so he was very impatient. He didn't want to drink his medicine. He didn't want nothing to do with the nurses, and we thought it was just, a kid with an attitude. Then later on, he told us that he just wanted to see his dog. We told him he couldn't bring his dog, but we can bring one of our canines. So we brought him in. The guy was happy. So every so often we just go back and have him play with our canine, and they were able to socialize.
Okay, but I left out one last scenario that actually occurred here at the hospital. One of our canine officers, who happened to be working the main lobby entrance, got a call via radio from our local police department. They advised that the man was being pursued on foot, possibly armed, running towards our main lobby entrance. As the suspect attempted to run towards our entrance, he saw our canine officer with his dog, at which point the suspect immediately surrendered and got on the ground without having to be told to do so. So typically, the vast majority of suspects surrender upon the presence of the canine. The dog actually de-escalates and prevents a use of force 95% of the time. So as you can see, the canine has proved to have a psychological effect on criminals. The canine also has been proven to be an asset, not only as a deterrent, but also a tool to protect the handler, other officers, patients, and visitors. Another thing I'd like to mention is the dog's language. Depending on where we import the dog from, mine is Dutch. Actually, all of our dogs are Dutch. So we use Dutch commands. Reason for that is so that suspects cannot, give commands to our dogs in case we, that way a dog can't be told to stop or to be controlled by a suspect. So.
And as you can see right here, we have 4 of our canines with Richie Yoakum, our CEO. It's a must. You must have support from your administration when it comes down to the dogs. It is a big expense to the hospital. The dogs are about $13,000. Okay. The class for the explosive class, I believe it's $8,000. The one for patrol, I believe it's like $10,000. So it's a must. Like I said, we have full support of our administration. We need leashes. We need a lot of equipment. Our equipment breaks down because we just don't use it. The dogs break it. In the last year, I'm gonna say I've lost or broke about 20 leashes. So 20 leashes times $40, it becomes a lot of money. Because of the job we have, we forget a leash and the dog will eat it or things like that. We have good moments with the dogs, and sometimes our CEO will call us into his office and tell us, what do you guys need? What do you guys want? So it is a must. You must have a support of your administration. They have to like the dogs, because as long as you have responsible officers, you're always going to have a positive outcome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long day at Pomona Valley Hospital. If you guys have any questions, you guys are more than welcome to ask us. If you guys would like to start your own program, we will be more than welcome to send you guys some information. But if you guys have more questions or anything like that, just feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you. That's great information. And if anybody wants to chat in a question in the chat box, they can do that. We'll answer that now, or you can press *1 and ask your question live. I have a actually quick question here too that I'm wondering, so how did Pomona decide that 4 K-9 units were the right number? You know, I mean, is there like a ratio out there of per beds, or how did you guys decide that that was the right size for you?
We started with, this is Beto, we started with 3 dogs, which is day shift, swing shift, and graveyard. At first we had the budget for 4. Now we have a 4th dog, and then he takes over when our day's off. We don't go by ratios. We don't go by what we need, just what we actually, what we can be given. We're now in the transition of getting a 5th dog. When 2 of our dogs, when a dog goes on vacation, then the other dog takes over. But it's been a positive outcome with the dogs. We have a lot of gang-related issues, and it saves up a lot of people. It saves up a lot of hours. Sometimes we have call-offs, and I can approach a crowd of 20 people, and if I want him out of the ER, I can push him out. If you have 2 officers, even if you have 10 officers against 20 people, they're willing to fight because it's 2 against 1. If you have a gun on yourself, they know for a fact that you're not going to shoot them because they're the patients. So they're willing to get in a fight with you. With a dog, somehow in human brain, people don't like to get bit by a dog. It's a scary thing.
Right. That's interesting. If anyone has another question, you can press *1 to open up your line, or if you can chat your question in. And while we're waiting to see if anyone has any questions, I'd like to remind everyone to please return your sign-in sheets and evaluations to us, because we actually do look at them and develop our education off of those. And other than that, I'd like to, looks like we might have somebody typing in. We've got Regina asking a question of how long does it take to get a dog fully trained?
Depending if it's cross-trained. Well, it depends if you're going to cross-train the dog or not. If it's just a single purpose, it's usually 6 weeks. If it's a dual purpose, it's another 8 weeks for the explosive detection part. So it all depends on whether you want a single-purpose dog or a dual-purpose dog. Obviously, a dual-purpose dog is going to take a little bit longer to train than a single-purpose.
Sure.
I would like to add something with that. So when you have a single-purpose, that means on patrol. You're going to be able to use the dog with force. With explosive, that's going to be another 8 weeks. You're going to have to train him with different explosives. I don't know what's known in the area. Whether it could be a C4, amphil, dynamite, black powder, smokeless powder, dead core, things like that. So some PDs, some hospitals, they'll introduce them with patrol, and if they feel like they need explosives, then they send them back. They send them back a month later. It could be a year later. So you don't have to do everything at once. So if you think you're gonna have you can have the officer off for 6 weeks. You train him for those 6 weeks. Then he can come back in a year if the dog is successful, and then he can go through explosives.
Through more. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And you made it sound, you say that they work shifts just like you guys, and they take vacations, and I mean, do you have like a schedule for them too?
I do. It just depends what you like, the way you have your life. But my dog gets he works 8 hours. He goes home into his cage. On the weekends he's off, and then I can actually let him out of his cage, and he plays with my kids. He loves the water, so he's outside.
Yeah.
he does take vacation because when I'm on vacation or I'm going hunting, then he's off. And the only thing he gets
Oh, okay, so your vacation is his vacation too?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have another question. What does a dog cost initially from the breeder?
I believe it's $12,000.
Okay.
And that's
Wow.
it's not from the breeder. These guys don't breed these dogs. Okay, we get them from Europe. So Alahorse Police Academy, they go to Europe, and if you want in a specific dog, some people, I don't like shepherds. Some people, the last time I got my dog, I said I want a yellow dog with a black face. I don't want a brown dog. I don't want a brindle dog. This is what I want. I want him to be fast. I want him tall. So you kind of give them what you want. If they didn't bring that back, then you have a choice of 30, 40 dogs. A must, I'm gonna tell you guys this. A must. If your handler doesn't like the dog, it's not gonna work out. So it has to be a mutual feeling. Your handler has to fall in love with the dog, whether it's a black head or just a yellow dog. But that's. I've been a canine handler for 17, and I had 3 dogs. I loved my first dog. My second was all right, okay? And I'm sorry to say it, but he died within 4 years. My first lasted me for 12, and then on my third, I loved my dog. But the handler has to love the dog.
You have to have that bond, huh?
Yes, the bond.
Right. Do you have K-9 coverage 7 days a week?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
24, we try to cover 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Great.
And then I'm gonna go back. I just got the price for the dogs. They're $10,000. Single purpose detection, it's $8,000, and I believe for the explosives you have to call.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And thanks for taking the time from your schedules to do this presentation. And oh, we've got another question that just came in. Oh, no, we don't. I'm sorry. We asked that one. And I'd like to thank everybody, all of our participants for listening. And if there's no more questions, I'll wish everybody a great day and close the meeting. Goodbye.